Hey, what's up guys? Today in this video, we are going to look at the profile section where we are planning to make these three tabs into React components. And the idea here is to structure the component in such a way that this can be a completely dynamic component where if I provide it with a JSON object where I tell it what is the name of the tab, what is the URL, and what content to or what component to render in this area, it should be able to do that very easily. Okay, so let's go to our Visual Studio Code, and this is the area which we want to be dynamic. Okay, this ULLI, right? These are three list items. I want that this list item will automatically generate based on a JSON that I will provide, and based on the component which is clicked, this tab content will render a component which we will tell it to render. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing which we are going to do is we are going to add a state to our component. Okay, and that will become our source of information for the dynamic tabs. So state will have tabs. Okay, and then let's say in that we have activity, which is the key of that the first tab. I'll say active is true. That will ensure that this blue thing is there. Then name will be one key, which will come as this white thing, the name of that tab. And component, this will be any component which we want to pass, which we want to render when that particular tab is clicked. So this will render in this please check area. Okay, so for now let's just say we'll create a few components. This is inside profile tabs, right? So let me create one for activity tab slash index.tsx, and one will be, let's say, settings tab slash index.tsx. Quickly get this thing done. Import. Right, so this is our component, and it's the same thing we will paste here. Just change the names. Okay, so we have these two components, and in here we will import them. Settings tab as well, right? So the first one will be activity tab, and we'll keep one more object, key, which is props if we want to send any. Initially I'm sending it as empty, but if we want we can send other things as well. The next one will be timeline, let's say. Okay, we will name it timeline, and in the timeline also let's for some time show the activity tab. Okay, and then oops, sorry, not the run. And then inside here we'll have settings as a key. These two will be false. Okay, this is name will be settings, and in here we will use the settings tab. Okay, so this is the object which we will follow to kind of how do you say this object will determine what all tabs needs to come. Okay, now once we have that in place, we need to create a component for this section, right? So let's look at that. So inside my common folder I will have something called as tab pill. Okay, I'll quickly copy this and tab pill is the name of my component. Now this will need to get some props. So interface props, this is how we need to define which props are coming to this component. So the first thing which we'll pass is tabs. We'll say this is any type, and we'll also pass in handle enable tab, which will be a function ideally, but we will start with any for now. Okay, now in here I'll pass the props. Okay, and then let's just have one function which is render tabs. This render tabs will take tabs from this dot props. Once it gets that, I'll need the keys from that tabs. So tab pills equals, let's just say, object dot keys of tabs. So what will happen is I will get, no, not this one, these things: activity, timeline, and settings. Okay, let's come over here. So I get this tab pills. Now for rendering, I'll do return tab pills dot map. I'll have tab and index. I'll return. Okay, I'll pick up this markup first of all. Nav item. I'll create this bracket and then put it here. So first things first, I'll add the key because this is repeating. So sorry, nowadays I'm a little confused between Vue and React, so sometimes I make those kinds of mistakes, but that's fine. I guess that's obvious, right? So the next thing is I need to get that active class. So what I will do is navlink is going to stay there as is. In here we will say, sorry, I did that the opposite way, navlink, and then in this brackets I already have tabs, right? So if tabs tab, which is coming from that keys which I have picked up, right? So if this dot active, okay, then how is this going to work? If this is here, then I do active, else let's for now say inactive. Okay, we don't have an inactive class, by the way, but I'll still print something. Okay, the href for now is slash, so I'll need to define the on click and do an event dot prevent default. So event and we'll have a function which will handle this. So this dot enable tab, let's just say, we'll pass the event and we'll pass the tab. Yes, we don't have this function, so we will create that as well. Okay, we get the event and we get the tab name, which is a string. First thing is event dot prevent default, so that the link doesn't do anything, it doesn't propagate. And this dot props dot handle, and we'll pass the tab name. So what we are doing is we are passing the name of the tab to this parent component when we do that. Okay, and then the next thing is, in here we still have this name, right? So we will do it as tabs. Tabs, it's an array, so tab dot name. Okay, so here we have used the active inactive thing. So based on that, this is what we are looking at. Active is true or active is false, and then the name is here, and the tab name is something which we have passed as the key. Okay, so far so good, right? Now we need to render this. So in here we will get rid of this bracket. I'll copy this UL, and in here I'll just call this dot render tabs function. Okay, this is done. Now what we need to do is get rid of this entire ULLI and get our tab fill component, where the tabs will be, let's just get tabs equals this dot state, so I can send the tabs in here, and this will be this dot. We need to define that function, right, which will be let's just say this dot enable tab, which will take the tab name as the parameter. So let's just define this function. So what does this function do? I'll take tabs from this dot state. Okay, we got the tab name. If tabs tab name equals undefined, right, we will return true. So if there is any key which is not in this list, right, of this tab, then we don't do anything about it, because we don't know what to do with that particular tab. Okay, ideally this should not happen, but still. So then we have keys equals, again, object dot keys. I take the keys from the tab, let new tabs equals tabs. Okay, and then this is basically so that I don't need to do a set state. So you will see what basically I'm trying to do. Keys dot for each. Okay, key, I'll get that key in here, and then in that new tabs key dot active equals false. Okay, so I'm doing is I'm making all the tabs as active as false first, then new tabs key dot name equals tabs key dot name. This I did as an additional thing, because we have this and we have these two now. Okay, this was required so that once we do the set state, we can get the tabs properly in place. So this for each loop is done, and then new tabs tab name dot active equals true. So basically what I have done is if you look, first I took the tabs. This is just a sanity check. I took all the keys, I pushed the tabs from the state into the new tabs. Okay, then I made all these tabs key as active as false. Okay, I set this name again, and then the the one which is being clicked, right, I put that active as true. And once this is done, it's simple, just set state tabs to new tabs. So we update the state in just one shot. Okay, so this is tab name. What happened? Cannot find name, tab name. This is happening because I need to pass it like this. So we are expecting tab name from the props. Okay, this is done. Let's see. I have now this is a dynamic thing which is kind of working, I assume, right? I have components and come over here. I have tab pills, right? So yeah, I mean, this is kind of working. And if you look at it, the if you look here, the true state changes from component to component, right? Now it's its timeline, then it is setting and all those things. So the first piece of making is dynamic is done. Just to show you that this does work, what I will do is make it contact. I'll name it contact, and we will not send any other component, but just to make sure that this is completely dynamic in nature, right? So this is working. So the first step is done. Now we need to render the component which is here in this area, right? So how do we do that? That's again pretty straightforward, I would say. So we have this please check text in here, right? Instead we need to render the exact component. So what we can do is render tab content. Again, we will steal this. We need the tab. Okay, we need the keys, and then again we need to do a keys map. Keys map, and this, let's just say tab name comma index. Okay, because we need to define the key. In here we will return some HTML markup. This is all that I need to print, right? So let's just say div dot div, and class name will be, let's just say, tab pane. Okay, then the name of the tab, so dollar, this is something which we have done, right? Tabs dot, and in that tab name I'm pretty much using the same code. If this is active, then active, else inactive. Okay, then ID is going to be tab name, key is index, and in this we need to show the component. So we'll have component, and in that tabs tab name dot props. Okay, any component which we render here will be rendered. However, what is the definition of that component? That's something which we make it dynamic, which is constant component equals tabs tab name dot component, because that's the key where my information is stored, right? So this is like when we want to render the when we are at the activity, it will render the activity tab. For timeline activity type tab, settings, it will be settings tab, so on and so forth. And we will also pass the props which is coming from this key. So yeah, this piece is important. Basically we define the component from here. Okay, I put this in the constant and then I rendered it. So this is an important piece to understand. So once this is done, what I will do is just pick this thing up, clear it out, and say this dot, and I'm done. So let's just see activity tab, timeline tab, and then settings tab, right? So basically now our entire profile tab is a dynamic component, right? We can basically load all the components in here. I'll just define this state tab, and if you can see, my main render function is very simplified. I have one component which is the tab pill. This is a common component which I have created, which houses the logic of rendering all the tabs on top, right? And then profile tabs, I am rendering the component in the body area which is coming from this JSON definition, which says which tab should render which component for display in here. So yeah, that's about it. That's how I structured my code to have this completely dynamic profile page with these tabs. I can reuse this component very easily. I can make this as a master component and then use it in other sections as well. This is right now profile tabs which has this information, if you see, right? But I can use it pretty much anywhere I want to. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.